Hello, this is Steve from Beaute's Leatherworks, and today's project is this beautiful vintage Gucci purse. Now, from the looks of it, it's not in bad shape. The problem is this interior. Yeah, it's seen its better days. So basically what we're going to do, we're going to disassemble it. Take the lining apart, make a pattern, stitch the lining, put it back together, and put it back in the purse. Now, once we've got it apart, we're going to clean the surface and add a little bit of color and condition it. We'll reassemble it, and then we'll go through that touching up process again, and then conditioning it a couple of times because it needs some moisturizer. It's not in bad shape, but it needs a little bit of help in the exterior. Also, what I just noticed is that, see how the bag is kind of sagging? It's kind of collapsing on the sides. So when we have it apart, I'm going to see if I can put some sort of a structural support right along the sides, the bottom and this side. So just kind of in a U shape to help that bag stand up again. And I think that'll give it a much better shape once it's finished. This should be straightened out here. So we'll see what we can come up with. Oh, this is my friend's shop in New York. Check them out when you get a chance. They're good people. I just felt like wearing her apron. So that's what that's about. All right. So let's get started. Now this is an $850 job to disassemble, put new lining, and it's another $280 to clean and dye the exterior. So about $1,100, a little more than $1,100 is what we charge this customer. Now this is not hard work, but it's tedious work. Once it comes apart, it's just like a puzzle. So it's pretty time-consuming work. Some people might say, well, it's a lot of money. Well, it is a lot of money. You're right. You know, depending on what you're doing, I guess. Now, some of these vintage bags, the manufacturer used, it's almost like a vinyl, not really a vinyl, but vinyl coating, I should say. It's fabric with a dye on top, right? So what happens eventually that when that dye starts kind of breaking down, it starts flaking, and this is what you get. And it's like a sticky residue. It kind of falls apart and crumbles. It's just not Gucci. I mean, the old vintage Louis Vuittons do that too. The vintage Dior. I mean, just about all of them will use this type of similar material. Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me either. I guess nothing was available back then. I don't know. They could have used leather, I guess. Now, basically, we're just going to disassemble the entire bag. And remove the lining from it, and then make a pattern out of it. I don't have Zeus with me today. Sorry. Next time. The problem is that I've got to run the shop, and I don't have a counter help here. So I can't just bring the dog when there's no help, because I've got to take the dog for walks and, you know, take care of it basically, right? So it's not really fair for me to bring the dog here and just let him sit here while I work the whole time. On Mondays I'll bring him here because I'm closed on Mondays, and that way I can just come and go as I please. Take him for walks or whatever, play with him. All right, so side panel is off. All right, we'll get there. Let's continue. These vintage bags are not very easy to work on. Because they're so old, there's always stuff that comes up when you're working on them. If you got a weak stomach, you better turn and look away. I read a lot of comments about how people freak out when I start cutting into bags. Well, I guess a lot of people are freaking out. Okay. And there she be. All right. This is the interior, basically. You got metal pieces right there, which basically support the handle system right there and give it that stiff shape so it doesn't bend in the middle. You've got fiberboard right there. Fiberboard on the bottom, foam on the sides to give it some cushioned look. Other than that, that's about it. So, see if you can see these areas right here, they're kind of collapsed. This is the area that we're going to reinforce a little bit on all four sides to give it some shape. All right, let's continue. Now you got to make sure you take all the stitches out that you just cut. What I'm using here is a piece of crepe rubber. And this works out very well to removing the stitches. The friction of you rubbing across it, stitches come out. Now the fun begins. Now this is basically the whole lining, as you can see, right? Now time to disassemble this. It's a little bit messy because it's all sticky. Ugh. You know, it's gonna get all over the place. Disassemble it and make some patterns out of new fabric. We're gonna use a nylon fabric today. I'll show you guys in a minute what I'm gonna use. Cut it all up, stitch it all up, and get her done. All right. We marked basically the panels. This is the left side. Now, I don't need to mark the right side, obviously. It's only two of them, right and left. You mark one, that's good enough. We're gonna put, see if you look here, the corner right here kind of failed because there's a lot of stress right there, right? So we're gonna reinforce it right here on both sides with another piece. So hopefully that doesn't happen. I mean, you gotta, you know, it lasted how many years? 30, 40 years. So it's not too bad at all. So this is pigskin, by the way. Okay. This is the kind of leather it is. All right. This is, there's a company in New York called Filmar Fabrics. Filmar fabrics. And this is a nylon fabric. I think this is called the waterfall pattern. And it's made in the USA. It's a pretty durable material. And basically we are going to make the lining out of this material. Just have to make sure that every pattern stays the same. For example, you know, if this piece is like this, horizontal, make sure that piece is horizontal. And the center pieces, center gussets are all horizontal, so when you're done with it, everything kind of matches up and lines up together. One is not vertical, one is not horizontal, so. And you put some little marks on the lining there. Don't forget, when it's apart, it's a puzzle. So you gotta kind of say, okay, well there's 2 X's here. Obviously it doesn't go with that 1X. That 1X will go with that 1X right there. Just like that. And then the one with the 2 X's, or 2 marks, whatever you want to put, 2 zeros, doesn't matter. That way it goes like that. So you don't lose track of what you're doing. Because what happens sometimes is when you start a project, you walk away from it, and then, you know, you come back, you're like, what the hell was I doing? You know, so this is kind of just kind of keep track of where you are in the project. It's with me, I mean, especially with me, I get so sidetracked during the day. You know, that's why I do these projects on my alpha hours. It's very early. That way I don't have something distracting me, and it's very easy. I get distracted very easily because there's just too much stuff to do in my head, you know. During when we're open, you know, for example, somebody will call while I'm working on something, say, hey, how's my item doing, you know, or I need it, or I'm on my way. I'm like, okay, well, it's not done. I'll get on it and finish it up for you, no problem. Sometimes I'll start something and I'll put it aside. And then when the customer calls, I'll put the final touches on it. If they need it in a hurry, you know. But at times, you know, these projects do sit around. I take them apart, work on them, and then I go to something else. And it sits there for a little bit. It's kind of difficult for me to focus because there's so much to do. You know, I run the shop by myself, basically. I just have one helper who helps me with the shoes right now, and a part-time who helps me with some patching. As far as, like, you know, smaller job handbags and stuff like that. And I just hired those two not too long ago. So everything I've been doing, I'm doing on my own. From taking care of customers, phones, organizing, calling, mailing items. I mean, you name it. Cleaning the bathroom. I mean, you name it, everything. It's got to get done. I mean, there's nobody else going to do it. You know, get back to my point is that I get sidetracked easily. That's for that reason. So it is what it is. I'm doing the best I can. I just have to take things in, I don't know, a little longer, I guess. Do you know what I'm saying? All right, so these 2 back panels are just about ready to be cut. Cool. Whenever I look at a project, I see it done already, you know? And this is gonna look really cool when it's finished. Customer will be really happy. She's really anxious to get her bags back. She's got, I think, 3 of them. 2 vintage Gucci's and 1 vintage Louis Vuitton. And I need to get them out. I need to get them done, be finished. Let me tell you, there's a lot of bags that I can make videos on. All right, let's continue. This is basically the back piece where it has a pocket, okay? Similar to this right here. So what we do is we cut a piece of paper, cardboard, whatever you want to call it, open a 1/2 inch slit, and then cut that fabric, and then in the corners here, cut it into like a little V. So once you fold that over, you got a nice and clean opening from the other side. Nice and clean. The zipper goes in the back like that. We're going to use the same zipper. Okay. We're going to replace everything other than the zipper. And keep the zipper slider. It says Gucci on there. So I'm going to keep this name tag, obviously. And it's got the serial number in the back, so we want to, of course, want to salvage that. Right there, but we're gonna clean that up a little bit and put some edge dressing. It looks like maybe like a black or a dark brown edge dressing around there, and make it look better, and then add it to the fabric. All right, let's continue. All right, so as you guys can see, we are getting there. The two back panels are done. Okay, we've got a new pocket in there. Okay. See how the pattern's matching the rest of the pattern, horizontal lines? Okay. Name tag is there. Now we're going to focus on the center compartment. Okay. Again, we're going to salvage this slider, the zipper, and these two little leather tabs you're seeing on the sides. Obviously the side leather pieces also. All right, let's continue. So this was that centerpiece I was telling you guys about. Remember I said I was going to reinforce the back, right? Well, that's the second piece right there that reinforces that area. Because that gets a lot of stress over time, and we don't want it to have it fall apart very easily. Beautiful. Everything matches up. All the horizontal lines are horizontal. All right, let's continue. Alrighty. We are making progress. As you guys can see, the inner compartment is done. I think it's looking good. So this is majority of the detail work, right? The rest of it is basically attaching that, then, you know, just reassembly, cleaning the stuff up and condition it a little bit for them. So, all right. So let's continue. I'm using turpentine just to wipe the surface. Not too bad, but it's got some issues here and there. For example, see this white mark here? Where does it go? Right there. It's just a friction mark, right? That should come off very easily with a little bit of turpentine or some rubbing alcohol at times. If it's really, really hard to remove, maybe acetone. But the problem is, with everything that you're using to remove stains, you're going to dry out the leather. So you got to treat it with moisturizers. Now, before we do that, we're going to add a little color to it. I mean, it's showing a little bit of wear and tear here and there, you know. This is called Leather Refinish. Okay, it's an acrylic dye. Now, acrylic dye is not meant for all leathers. Okay, you can't just cake it on there because it sits on the surface. It doesn't really absorb into the pores of the leather. Okay, so basically what I do is I get a little bit of the dye, a little bit of the water. Okay. Just wipe on it. Now, you can mix and match these colors as much as you want. Okay? Again, it's not good for all applications. You got to be careful. If you haven't used it before, well then you need to practice on some stuff before you go ahead and, you know, do something like this. Now the issue becomes with jobs like this is that at times the thread is a lighter color. Well, it's really difficult to maintain that light color thread when you're adding color to it. Okay? I mean, yeah, if it's really drastic, like white stitches or something, you're gonna be careful with it. But this is a shade lighter than the actual leather is. But unfortunately, you know, you're very limited to what you can do with the color. If you want to make it look better, it's going to make the thread color a little bit darker as well. I think if it's all uniform, it works out pretty good. Again, we're not adding too much dye to it. Just a shade. Now some of these worn out areas, you're going to take that and dab it. Okay. Because you need to kind of build that up a little bit so it'll stop drying off and showing that it's a worn out area. All right, we're gonna let this sit for a few minutes. There's a little black spot right here. I'm gonna see if I can remove it. sometimes you don't know what the stains are. You just have to, you know, maybe use a little bit of damp rag first. Okay, and if that doesn't come off, maybe rubbing alcohol next. And if that doesn't take it off, then you go to maybe turpentine or acetone. Again, I mean, all leathers are different. All leathers are different. All leather finishes are different. So you can't just do a general solution. It really depends on what kind of finish you have that you're working with. All right, let's continue. All right, so the side pieces are stitched on. Now we get to stitch the center piece in the front and back. These are the pieces, the reinforcements that kind of straighten out the bag. So we're just kind of reversing when we took things apart. So these top pieces will be stitched on next, this one and this one right here. And then you finish it by stitching the sides. And all the stitching will be done. Then you can focus on conditioning it one more time. I know I didn't show you guys earlier that I did, but I'll show you when I do it again. You have to condition the leather. I mean, there's no ifs or buts about it. Even though the leather comes from a dead animal, it's a living product that needs nutrition. It needs moisturizer for it to last a long time. If you don't moisturize it, it's just going to dry and crack and fall apart, and then there's not much you're going to be able to do with it. Okay? All right. I'm glad we understand each other. It's a beautiful bag. I mean, it's a gorgeous bag, not a beautiful bag. It's a gorgeous bag. I think once we're done, it's going to give it many, many years of wear when we get done. Okay. So we glue everything together first so it doesn't move while we're stitching it. Make sense? The glue is just there just to keep it in place while we stitch it. It's a good idea to do that because you don't want it to move around. A lot of little stitches here and there. We gotta get it out of the way. Cool. Did I tell you guys it's a nice bag? I did? Oh, lordy, lordy, lordy. Not too much hammer time in this video. Sorry, guys. You know, with bags, it's not really much hammering you can do. All right, maybe we'll do a little bit. Mini hammer time. Oh no, I'm gonna get a comment from the hammer guy now. No, this is another hammer guy who said that my hammers suck because they're not done properly. He did offer to redo one for me, but I don't know who the guy is. I can't send him. I'd like to, but I can't send him my family heirloom. I know it's just a hammer, but this thing is older than me. To somebody I don't know, you know? It sounded legit, but again, I don't know the guy. We're gonna call him Hammer 2 guy. Hammer 2? Nah, we won't call him nothing. I'm sure he's a nice guy. All right, so we're going to stitch this, then we're going to glue that and stitch that, and we're almost done. Let's continue. This is Bick 4 conditioner. I'll put the links in the end of the video in the comment section of the products that I'm using. Now all you're doing is just wiping it on there. Okay? It's not too difficult. It's pretty easy to use. I use it on all, well, except for suede. I use it on all smooth leathers. Okay? Once you apply it on there, wait a couple of minutes, and then you can come back and buff it, and then you're done. Really, that's about it. Now, depending on how dry the leather is, you might have to do it a couple of times. Okay? Now, this is the third coat I'm putting on. So when the leather is dry, it's going to absorb it, okay? And then after a while, it's just not going to absorb it anymore, because imagine a dry sponge. You can only put so much water into it before it stops absorbing. Leather is the same way, okay? And how do you know when the leather had enough? Well, that's kind of hard to explain. Just use common sense, you know. If it doesn't look dry, and don't keep on putting it on it. As you guys can see, it's come out pretty good, right? Just got to attach the handles, and I'll be done with it. Added a bunch of more years to it. Now this was mailed in. I do a lot of mail-in orders. You guys want to find out about, you know, what I do, just when you're on my main page of Beaute's Leatherworks on YouTube, on the top right, you'll see About section. If you click onto that, it'll take you to all my information. My shop name, my shop number, address, email address. You can check me out on Facebook, Beaute's Leatherworks, on Instagram, Beaute's Leatherworks. Tons of pictures there of the stuff that I've done, like before and after types. Okay? All right, let's continue. All right, welcome back. We're done with another project. I think it turned out pretty good. It's a beautiful bag. You guys remember how bent the area was? Now it's a lot straighter. Because we put those reinforcing pieces on the inside. All the lining got replaced, obviously. We kept the same zippers on the pocket and the center gusset there. I applied a little bit of dye, as you guys watched earlier. It didn't need too much. Just need to be cleaned, all the scuff to be removed first, all the marks, and apply a light coat of color. Now remember, acrylic dyes are not meant to be for all leathers, so you got to be careful when you use it. Just a little bit did the trick. Once we finished with it, I conditioned it a couple of times, and I'm going to water repel it. That'll give it that final coat and be ready to be shipped out. She's got a couple other bags that I got to finish along with this, and then it's ready to go out the door. I believe this is going to Chicago. All right. Well, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. I do take mail-in orders. This was a mail-in order, obviously. And if you haven't subscribed, so please do. That helps out greatly. Click the icon, click the bell button so you get notification when I upload videos. Also, give me a thumbs up. comment all you want, share as much as you want. So, all right, I appreciate it again, guys. Thank you very much. I hope everybody's doing good and staying safe with all this mess going on around the world. And we'll see you guys on the next project. Take care.